We are here in London today, guys, with Alberto on the other Sony. We're gonna test out the new vlogging camera, and that's why today we're actually vlogging through London. We're probably not talking just about the camera, we show you the city as well, but I'm gonna test it naked. The only thing we have, it's an external microphone because I want my voice to be clear. Camera handheld, just a couple of lenses, 24mm right here, which is a Viltrox, and I've got an 85mm G Master lenses. We're gonna also test the stabilization, autofocus. That's why I'm using two different brands to test out their autofocus capabilities. My eyes are in focus. Here we are back in studio just to go a bit deeper into each subject, and I want to start from the focus. While you are in filming mode, you can use the manual or autofocus. Well, not much to say about the manual focus, but autofocus overall is great. You got different settings compared to the previous cameras. So you have the option to set up a recognition target, which means you can target humans, you can target animals, but also you can specify the animal. You've got birds, insects, you can track airplanes and trains. It's crazy. I was actually filming the River Thames and it could recognize the boats. It was actually probably recognizing it as a train, the front of the boat, but still it was great. It was just literally focused on the boat. We also have breathing compensation in this camera, which means sometimes with the autofocus, your lens and the camera will struggle to actually pull the focus right. So with the breathing compensation, this process will be a bit smoother and you will notice less. The only time that happened, actually, I was filming the street and I had a lot of people going in front of the camera, and that's the only shot where it was actually struggling. Otherwise, the autofocus is spot on. We were in the park in Embankment and we asked a couple of girls, they're really kind girls, if we could use them as models, and once again the focus nailed it to the eye. So of course you have eye tracking. The autofocus is so good that even if the subject is giving the back to the camera will recognize the back and it will still focus on the subject. And more or less, if you had the face tracked, it can kind of recognize the location of the eye. So when the subject turns back to the camera, it will be ready to eye focus basically. I had used two lenses for this vlog, a Sony G Master 85mm and a Viltrox 24mm, which is not native, but it's made for the E-mount cameras and it still worked fine. Of course, if you use other brands like Canon and so on, and I actually used a Canon, the Metabone doesn't recognize the electronics, so the autofocus doesn't work. Embankment Bridge, walking through from Embankment to South Bank, testing out the microphone of the camera with the windshield on top. How does it sound? You guys are gonna listen to it before we do, so how is the quality? I'm sure it can't compare with an external microphone, but hey, how is it for vlogging if you don't want to carry extra things? This is raw camera, as naked as it can go. The windshield actually fits inside the hot shoe of the camera, on top of the camera. It slides in. And by editing the video, I realized it's not too bad. The audio is not bad at all, actually, for vlogging, of course. You know, I wouldn't use it for professional use, but still when I can, I like to use external microphones. They're usually just the best option to get a crisp audio. Obviously, the internal mic of the camera picks up more ambient noise because it's further away from your mouth compared to a lapel mic, for example, and compared to the Saramonic I was using on the day of the vlog. Overall, yes, very usable for vlogging if you want to travel light. As we walk towards the National Theatre here in South Bank, something I want to mention, when you press rec, there's a nice rectangular shape on your monitor so you can actually see that you are recording. That's very helpful, and it comes also on the Sony FX3 if I'm not wrong. In terms of image quality, and I'm so sorry I had to return this camera because it was great literally for traveling. If you want to see the reasons why I purchased the camera in the first place, go and check this video out. But talking about the image quality, and I'm going to include another few features like the dynamic range, which altogether makes a great image quality. Dynamic range, we've got 15 stops, and I could really tell here the day wasn't the brightest, but when the sun came out, highlights and shadows were evenly balanced, and you can do great work in color grading. So when the light is right, image is stunning. especially when I was using the 85mm G Master. That lens, wow. In terms of codecs, I tried a few codecs which are written on each clip you've seen here or you're watching right now. Also in terms of editing, it worked fine, not jittery effects on my computer. Well, it's a new Mac, so it's pretty powerful, but it was flowing pretty good. The image is clean. I was keeping the ISO as low as possible with the S-Log3. I can't remember the lowest you can go now, but it's definitely lower than the older camera. Like on the A7R III, my lowest ISO was 800 by using the S-Log. On the ZV E1 was much lower. While I was editing, I noticed my skin was a bit too soft sometimes. That's something, again, you can change in camera, so you can change the sharpness, but also there's an effect called soft skin, which obviously make your skin a bit smoother, and probably that was on while I was filming. I didn't really notice before that, but I realized after. But I think that's why. So if you see my clips here while I'm vlogging, I've got the camera facing my face, you can actually see the skin a bit smooth. Probably too smooth for a man, not for the ladies. The skin tone is consistent and much more even, once again, compared to, I'm just comparing with the A7R III, which I was using as a second camera, because sometimes the A7R III gave me some green hues, but here it's nice pinky tone. And to be fair, the A7R III is a great second camera, especially when I don't use the S-Log, which is weird. The image is really, really clean, and I still enjoy filming with the A7R. And if you want, go and check my other video here where I explain why this camera is still great in 2023. Okay, in terms of image quality, also wanted to show you these clips which were filmed on a professional shoot. I know the ZV E1 wasn't made for professional shoots, and I was filming these videos for a plastic surgery clinic, either with a Blackmagic Pocket 4K as the main camera, and as I had the ZV E1, I said, you know what, I'll bring it with me and I try some clips. So I'm going to show you this video now and see if you can spot the difference between the images. And then a bit later in this vlog, I'm going to show you the same sequence, but I'm going to reveal which cameras I've used for each clip. So drop here in the comment tab what you think about the comparison as well. Can you actually tell the difference?
I just briefly want to talk to you about septal rhinoplasty, following on from my rhinoplasty video. Now, the septum is the midline partition of the nose. So it goes from here, from the front of the nose, right to the back of the nose where it joins the throat. The septum can actually deviate, in other words, it can be bent, and there are many reasons why it can bend. Some of the reasons are from childbirth, trauma at childbirth, falls, sports, obviously, fights and things like that. Now, one of the biggest problems with the bent septum is your nose will generally deviate with the septum.
For these plastic surgery clips, guys, bear in mind I was filming in H.264, so not even the highest quality codec of the camera, in 1080p, so full HD, which I upscaled to 4K to match the Blackmagic. So I think the quality of the image is still great. And Blackmagic was filmed in B-RAW as well, so the maximum quality you can get out of the Blackmagic.
I just briefly want to talk to you about septal rhinoplasty, following on from my rhinoplasty video. Now, the septum is the midline partition of the nose. So it goes from here, from the front of the nose, right to the back of the nose where it joins the throat. The septum can actually deviate, in other words, it can be bent, and there are many reasons why it can bend. Some of the reasons are from childbirth, trauma at childbirth, falls, sports, obviously, fights and things like that. Now, one of the biggest problems with the bent septum is your nose will generally deviate with the septum.
Next, we can talk about stabilization. For stabilization, we have 3 different types of stabs, internal stabs in the camera. By default, you can set your camera without any stabilization, so you use a full frame of the camera. If you want to use the standard stabilization, you will have a tiny crop. I'm not sure how much actually, it's probably 1 crop factor, I guess. Then you've got the active stabilization, which crops in even a bit more than the standard. It's probably 1.5 crop factor. And then we have the active dynamic, which is supposed to work kind of like a gimbal, and it crops in like a 30%. So you have a big crop there. It's quite stable, and it's the smoothest, of course, between the other, between the 3 stabilizations. But I have to be honest, I didn't enjoy any of them. They're still quite jittery and quite skippy. So you can see from these images, it's not very smooth. I didn't really like it, to be fair. But once again, I want to hear your comment, drop it down here. And if you're using this camera, guys, just share your experience, because I'm very curious. I probably wasn't very lucky with this item myself. So I returned it. If you want to see why I returned it, because of overheating issue, you want to see more of that, go and check this video here. Also, bear in mind, my 85mm G Master doesn't have stabilization either. So it was literally camera handheld, no stabs, and that's how the stabilization of the camera works. As we're walking down, we're gonna test the stabilization on the 24mm by Viltrox. At the moment, this is the standard stabilization because I didn't want much crop in my image. Quick thing again, as I'm using the camera, I'm actually understanding what I like, what I don't like in terms of the grip, the handle itself. It's quite small, but the thing is, when you actually open the flip screen, it kind of opens up the frame behind the camera, and it creates a space where you can actually put your thumb, and it's going to help you out to hold the camera for a long time. So definitely that's going to be useful as well. So that was my vlogging test in London. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helped out in considering if you want to get this camera, because I'm really curious to hear from other video makers out there and vloggers, hear their experiences. I would have really loved to keep the camera because of the portability, the image quality, and all the reasons I posted in my first video. So I'm indecisive now if I should get another one and try if it was just literally a bad model of the cameras, of the production, or go for an FX3, which is more a professional camera, and which I have already a professional camera, so I'm not sure what to do. I was really looking forward for a tiny portable good image camera. And once again, if you want to check all the videos about this camera I've done so far, go and check them out. People went wild when I posted my overheating video, but I guess it's an important subject. Of course, hit subscribe right now, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.